we're going
Yes,
to
sir.
go ahead and call this meeting
Okay.
of the Finance Committee to order. This is our first budget meeting, so Ms. Salter, if you'll call roll.
Yes, sir. 405, specially called Finance Committee meeting. Dr. Jones.
Here.
Counselor Gwaltney.
Here.
Counselor Alleman. Counselor Smith. Are they on Zoom? Okay.
Carl,
Counselor Harden.
Here.
So you have 3, but you have a quorum.
well, we have Counselor Alleman. He's on Zoom.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, sorry, then
There
you
he
have
is.
4.
So we have 4. Yeah, Barry, her aunt passed away, so
Oh,
she
okay.
is at a funeral today. So I'm sorry, we're thinking about her during that time. So just be thinking about her. Okay, we have this is going to be our item for many weeks to come. Exciting time. 170821, consideration of the mayor's 21-22 budget for all funds. And then tonight, our main task will be to go through revenue, and we do not have a long meeting tonight. I want to go over just some of the meetings that we are going to be having. We have this coming Thursday. We're going to try to get into the general fund a little bit tonight, but mainly we're just going to be focused on revenue and revenue projections. But Thursday, starting at 4:30, we'll be going over the general fund and capital.
Hey, Dr. Jones, could I ask you, I was going to try to call you earlier, but as you can see, I'm not texting or emailing very well.
Well, I'm glad you're not. Yeah, you
So, and I'm just,
look like you
I'm
should
having
not
to
be
do the
doing
80s
that.
way and call people on the phone, and they don't like it as much. But I just want to let you know, this year the capital is going to be a little bit different. We probably should have told you before, but because a lot of the capital that would normally be in 12 is going to be in the Fund 26, because we're using that 6.41. Robert, is that what we got that we just got from the.
Yes.
So you may end up kind of having to talk about, and then some of the capital is going to be in Fund 2 for the ARPA money. So we may have to kind of either look at those in conjunction with capital instead of those on the other fund days. I don't know how you want to do it, but capital's going to be a lot less in 12 for the general government, because we moved some for those 2 things, for the wine money and the ARPA money. But now the departments will all still be 14, 15, police and all that. I was just letting you know. It's not going to be highly unusual from what it's been in the past.
Okay. Okay, and then next week, we will be going over funding matters relating to the employees. That'll be on Tuesday, and then Thursday, other organizational changes. So as we go through different expenditures, we skip over the organizational changes and handle that in one night, just to kind of get an understanding of where employees are going to be going, and if we're having any promotions, things like that. So we'll handle that next Thursday. And then the following Tuesday we'll be kind of finalizing everything, and if we can get finished, we can certainly cancel the meeting on the 23rd, but I'm not sure if we will be able to do that or not. So Monday the 27th, our overall goal is for that meeting to vote on the budget. That's a second council meeting of the month, and we're required as a committee to recommend approval at that point to the full council to be voted on that night. So a lot of this, Robert, is going to be kind of taking us through some of the revenue, but I wanted to start off with, we have some new members of the council. I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with kind of how the budget is structured. So we have this nice little cheat sheet, as I call it, that has all of the different numbers for the general fund, the grants fund, 7 cent, 4 cent. So all the departments have a specific number, and so he was going to hand that out to everybody so they could kind of see what that is, so you can easily look that up. And then in terms of the book, basically, the first recommendation that the mayor has made is really behind tab 1, and we'll talk through that as we go through. But those are all the payroll worksheets that are behind tab 1, and then we're going to be working with revenue behind tab 2 mainly tonight. But you can see on the front page all of that. Are there any questions before we get into the revenue, and as we go along, if there are any questions that anyone has, we'll be happy to take those. Are there any questions? And our president has joined us as well, if you can make note of that. Well, Miss Melody will when she gets back over. She's wandering around.
You do not know the expletives in my head that I'm gonna be not this thing, trying to do that little one-page sheet that got handed out, because I actually thought I could still beat Robert on the left hand, but I can't, so.
Will you be nice? Okay.
No, so that took a lot of frustration to get that sheet out, because left-handed, I'm not very fast.
Okay.
So that's
Okay,
humbling
Mr.
experience.
Burgett, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of start us off on the revenue side, and maybe a little bit of background on where we do get revenue, and kind of go over that with us.
Okay. First of all, the sheet that Mr. Jones is referring to, we have created the new department, Department 13, which is our engineering. If you look on the sheet, I didn't update this, I'm sorry. Department 12 is now our inspections department, and we have Department 13, which is our engineering department. So we need to add that, so y'all, when we talk about that.
We always skip that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I didn't.
So that's engineering.
We have scenarios and historical numbers that we use to project our revenues. There's sometimes that we go off scenario if we know there's certain situations that are going to occur, but we generally try to base it on historical fact to try to be very accurate. And I will say that this year we did not do adjusting in the numbers as we did last year for the COVID virus. And as everybody knows, you're having another outbreak now, so hopefully we won't be in the same situation where businesses and entities just shut down entirely. But we did not take into consideration looking at sales tax, lodging tax, recreation, those type numbers of an impact from COVID. So I do want to state that. I gave out a sheet, which just very, very brief sheet that gives the amount of taxes that we collect and where it's appropriated to. Like for sales tax, the city collects a total of 4% on sales tax. Of that 4%, we have 1% that goes to Board of Education, 1% to debt service, 1.75% to our general fund, and 0.25 or 1/4% to our capital project. That's how the money, when it comes in, that's how we distribute it between our various funds.
And let me interrupt you for a second. That's kind of where we've always had that discussion around the capital projects fund is always short, and it's not because we're going crazy doing so many projects. It's because of our allocation of 0.25 of that penny. And 1 penny equates to what now, almost 10 million?
About 9 million, about 9.4 million.
9.4 million.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Then we have our property tax, which is our second highest funding source. Sales tax is our highest funding source for the city. Property tax is our second highest funding source. Both real and personal property is distributed to 3 funds. It goes to our Board of Education, our general fund, and our debt service fund. The city collects 31.7 mills of property tax, which that's basically, a mill is $1 per thousand of assessed value. And we distribute 28% of our property tax to our general fund, 45% to our Board of Education, and 27% to debt service. And we're anticipating collecting a little over 21 million in property tax next year. And that number comes in pretty accurate because we do get an abstract from the county of what they've assessed our property at. So we're very, very, very close on property tax in our projections. Lodging tax is another large source. The city's current tax is 9%, and 100% of our lodging tax goes to fund our general fund. And then our other large tax account lines are our, business license, which is a little over $4 million, utility license, a little over $2 million. I'm sorry, I put building license, that should be building permit. That all goes to fund our general fund. Kind of just give you a breakdown of where the funding comes from. And we have taken the number of property tax, both personal and real, looking at budgeting a little over $21 million for real property and $1.1 million for personal property. Sales tax, the sales tax collections have just been really, really excellent for the last couple of years. We were up considerably this year over what we had budgeted.
And hold on one second, just make sure we're all together. So you've been going through this, so it's very small on the, basically on the bottom of that sheet. I'm having trouble reading what that says, but are you on, what page are you on?
Okay, under tab 2, the first was property tax, the second sheet was the personal property, and on the third sheet is the sales. It's the third sheet. It says page 12 at the bottom.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay, sales
just wanna
tax.
Make sure. Okay, so you're on that sales tax item on page 12.
Yes, sir.
That I can barely read. Okay.
And as you can look historically, you can see how our sales tax has been growing. We're estimating this year to collect $37.7 million, which will be the highest collections we've ever had. And this being very conservative, we just basically took sales tax up 1% for next year. So we're budgeting $38 million in sales tax collections for next year. I know that, grocery and grocery stores and home goods stores have really been what's fueled our sales tax collections this year. And with the inflation, they're talking about 20% inflation in grocery and cost of food. So if that being the case, sales tax collections should again be strong next year.
20% inflation?
That's what they're anticipating for grocery inflation next year. It's 15 to 20%, the cost of groceries. It's a scary number.
And the 38 million that is currently budgeted for sales tax, so you're in your belief, and I know when the mayor kind of works on the budget, this is a critical number. And we've had debate over the years as to, are we being too conservative, or are we not being conservative enough? So walk me through a little bit more about.
And we've debated it too this time.
Yeah, we did.
I know, and
Robert
I mean,
and I and the mayor
but
debated it.
yeah, there's a lot of work
'cause the
that
number
goes
was-
into that.
The-
Because I mean, we have had certain budgets where we were really low, and we adjusted it a little bit, but I wanted you to kind of talk through
And
that a
before he
little
does,
bit.
I want to say, let you around too, that is net of the incentive that we still have. It doesn't have the gross, like, in the expense of the incentive, that's net of what we pay Colonial Properties and Brickworks and all that.
The Board of Education is the total collected, because we can't take the incentives out of the Board of Education's portion, but on the general fund, and the capital and the debt service, the incentives are removed from that gross amount for the collections. Every year I've been very conservative, and every year we've actually come in over budget. So we've come into the good every year. Again, I'm extremely conservative because we had such a tremendous growth this year in sales tax over last year. You keep saying, when is it going to end? You hope it never ends, but the growth from 20 to 21 was exceptional. It was over 10%. So, that's why I was very conservative with a 1% number for next year. You don't know how much additional funding, as far as like unemployment funding or stimulus from the government, is going to come back into our economy next year. Our economy was flooded with federal money this year. I think that's one of the reasons that the sales tax was as high as it was. But-
So that, Robert, that's what my concern would be is, we've had the highest ever, and then we're really saying it's gonna go up another 1%. And to me, I know there's been a lot of debate between the three of y'all, but to me, I'd be going, I think I'd, of course, you know, inflation could absolutely save our bacon there, but my thought is that, do we need to drop it a little bit just because we have the highest ever? And do we really believe it's gonna go up again? But maybe it will. Maybe last year was the highest ever. And
Well,
then-
historically, it's always grown.
Yeah.
It's the rate of growth that we.
And then,
that's
so you're,
hard to
and it's
determine.
1%, so you're
Yeah,
budgeting
1%'s
a 1%
low.
growth compared to 10 that we've just had this past year.
It just makes the number look big, because we talked about it too, but we kept going back and forth, because I was like, I think I said, wow,
That's a big
I
number.
said, that's a big number, Robert.
Okay.
But, we will say, and I'm gonna jinx us now though, but Robert has done revenue the whole time since you've been here, I think, even as we work on as a team, but that's his forte that he's developed. But we look back at some of the other budgets, we were like, wow, for such a big number between property tax and sales tax, we're giving ourselves attaboy. But like what'd you say, if we come to some of them closest, like, what, 1.1%?
Yeah, like, well, I mean, like on property tax, we've been at like
I don't wanna
101%
jinx us, I'm not gonna
collections, 99%. So we've been, historically, we've been accurate. That's the best thing that I can count it on. But again, it's a guess. It's a guess. The economy could stumble, or the economy could catch fire, and that sales tax number would be tremendous. But it is our largest funding source.
I mean, COVID helped us because you weren't going out to restaurants, so you're going to the grocery store. You weren't going anywhere, so you're going to Lowe's to fix stuff because you didn't have anything else to do but hang out at your house. So Lowe's and Home Depot have done fabulous through COVID because we're all at home doing nothing. So.
And I will say this, as far as the trend, if you're looking at this year, every month has been trending up, and even our collections for the month of August were the highest collections that the city's ever had. So they're still trending up.
And I mean, I was just gonna say too, 'cause not to get ahead of ourselves, but there are some safeguards in the mayor building this budget when we get to payroll, where there's some positions, that he are not gonna allow to be filled until January and March, closer to the
Right.
mid-year review. Cause obviously, if y'all end up tweaking revenue down, if you take it back down, say, we'll just have to use fund balance, which we're using 300,000, if you look on that page anyway, but, I just letting you know, if you're looking ahead, there are some things built in too, that if we see it's not coming in, that they just say, well, they won't be able to hire those positions, so I just letting you know that was a discussion about that too, kinda like along with this year, is that some stuff we're gonna have to monitor again, like we did to the mid-year review.
Got it, okay. So that's exactly a 1% increase.
And again, historically, that's a conservative number.
It
But
just looks big.
The current year has been so strong, you hate to use
37.7.
statistical numbers and raise it up.
Yep. Okay. All right, continue.
All right, and then lodging tax is rebounding. We have the Valley Hotel on, but 75% of their lodging tax is being in the tax abatement back to the property, but they have contributed to our lodging tax. And I'm still being conservative with that number, still down 20% from our highest year. And if the growth continues and the rebound continues, I don't think we'll have any problem meeting that number, with the caveat of, again, we hope the economy doesn't shut down due to, this Delta variant outbreak that seems to be in the news every day. But been conservative with lodging tax, but we still raised it up over the current year because it is rebounding.
And what percentage increase is that?
That one was not a percent, that was a scenario. Let me see, I can tell you exactly. 4%.
4%, okay.
Yes, sir. Over the estimated current year. Now, for information purposes, the way we come up with 2021, the year hasn't ended when we do these projections, but we do an estimate. We take March, May, and June actual revenues, And we try to extrapolate that out to the end of the year. That's where our estimate comes in, and that number's pretty consistently accurate. And then we base our next year's budget off the historical numbers as well as the previous year's numbers. That's where that's how the estimate is derived, off of actual numbers. Business license is our next one of our next higher categories, a little over $4 million. I talked the city clerk into letting us move that up to 4.5 million this year, which will be our best year ever as far as business license. We have currently we have already exceeded our 2021 estimate because this was done last month, and we've got business licenses that have come in. We've had a large audit come in, so we have exceeded the 4.46 million for current year, and we've raised next year's up to 4.53 million.
Okay.
Our utility license, that's generally a pretty consistent revenue source that comes in. We had the one spike the 1 year, but other than that, it generally runs about 2.2 million, so we kept that level in that neighborhood. And to be 100% honest, I do not know what the anomaly was that spike, but we did get 2.4 in 20. Building permits, there's several projects that I spoke with Mr. Pugh about that'll be coming next year that'll bring some good revenue, large commercial projects, as well as, you have your residential permits, have a small increase there on the, but we're up considerably over 2020, but our best year ever business license was 2019. Not quite back to that yet.
And 2017, right
And
behind it.
17, yes,
Yeah.
sir. And there were, let's see, okay, in 17, I got a note here, there was one large project, I can't remember the project, it was a $92,000 building permit in 17. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I could go back and look. But there's reasons for those spikes in those good years. Rec fees, in talking with Berkeley, he seems to feel like the rec fees are going to rebound good this year. They'll be back close to full. We budgeted rec fees. And all this, and again, I meant to state this when I was talking about this. Building permits, utility license, rec fees, they all go straight into the general fund. They go into our general fund. A portion of our building permits go to a technology fund, like pennies, into a technology fund, but it's used for training and schooling for our building inspectors and some electronic equipment that they use. They use iPads out in the field and stuff like that. So it's used for technology for their department. Of course, municipal fines, again, straight
Well, hold on 1 second.
Yes, sir.
So Berkeley, you feel good about that number, the 498? Or no, 550?
550.
Yeah, we should be able to drive that one. Our numbers are back, we're back close to, like Pee Wee football's up this year, our flag numbers are still 300. Basketball, even last year during the pandemic, 728 kids. We were down from the year before, which was
Wow.
record at 840 something, but we feel like we'll be pushing that again this year. So I think we'll be able to get there.
And that's about, we're only looking right there about a 1% increase from what we're estimated to finish here, and that might be low, but
We can look at it again.
To be conservative, I think 550,
I kind
okay.
of stayed a little bit conservative just to make sure with everything going on, but, our numbers are, our kids are, there's just a lot of kids now, a lot more kids being involved, so, we,
Okay.
like I said, last year, we were, with the pandemic, we still were over 700 kids in basketball.
let's not go back to 2020 numbers. Okay.
Yeah, his Park's best year was 627,000. That was 2019. That was right before
Wow.
the pandemic.
Okay, back to, municipal funds.
Okay. And then, of course, municipal fines, the fine, the portion of the fine that the city collects goes into our general fund. And to just briefly touch on it, the court cost fees are acknowledged in other court funds. We have a court corrections fund, a court jail fund, a judicial admin fund, where some of the court cost fees are allocated to those funds to run the court. But the municipal fines, the city's portion of the municipal fine goes straight into our general fund. I highlighted those are the larger funds, but if you flip your next tab to tab 3,
Yeah.
this is a listing of all our revenue funds for the general fund. We have, we get a liquor tax from all the ABC receipts. That's our first fund. We have financial institution tax, all the various funds that we receive. We have it broken down as taxes in the first section. And if you have any questions on those or any specific one that you'd like to discuss. And these are, property tax, sales tax, gas tax, liquor tax, wine tax, lodging tax. The next section is license and permits. The revenue fees there. Couple, let me see. Well, one that's been added is that transportation network fee, which added a couple years ago. That's an Uber fee. We don't sell business license to people. They get licensed through the Public Service Commission. They send us a fee, and it's actually based on destination drops and how, rides that originate and terminate in Homewood. We get a portion of that fee. You'll also notice on here that the inspections department has been, the way that they've been assessing the land disturbance permits has changed, and their revenue is up considerably on that item. On the next page, the various other permits, the gas permits, plumbing permits.
Well, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes, sir.
We went from, why that has increased so much?
Which one is that?
The land disturbance.
It had to do with the way that they were interpreting the rule, and now when ground is broke for construction, they're collecting they're collecting the fee according to the way that they are interpreting the rule, and the fees becoming
I like
a
that.
larger
I think
amount.
that's great. Okay.
I
Okay,
can't
thank
get
you.
real specific.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
the way it was explained to me, so.
Okay.
But I just know that in talking with Mr. Pugh, that's a revenue source that has been increasing for
Yes,
us.
okay, great. Okay, before we move to the next page, any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions on?
Hey, Dr. James, I was gonna tell you too, just in case y'all look back to have books before, you like the high-level overview. We're going to that new Encode version in the cloud, version 10.
Version 10?
Well, before we can get to version 10, which is a whole nother almost rewrite, but we had to upgrade to another version that is not 10, but you see now how we've got 5 years that say 5-year pro actual 4-3. We only used to give y'all 3 years of history. And this is a new upgrade from the budget books of the past that you've got.
Yep.
You've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 actual, which is your actual that you ended up for the year. Then you got your current budget for this current year, where we currently actually are as of June, or July, or where the budget is and what we're requesting for next year. But that's like 2 more years worth of detail than y'all ever had before.
And our actual ends June 30th right now, correct?
September 30th.
No.
No, I'm talking about the actual that we're looking at, that's the end of June. When we
Well,
show
this
the
is
actual.
This is July,
This was
July.
July 30th.
July 31st.
Yep.
So you
I thought it
still
was
have,
June, but
you
I
still
don't
have August and September revenues to add to your actual.
I thought we printed it off for June. I don't know why that was July.
July, I don't know.
I thought the whole budget was as of June.
Chairman
varies?
Jones, can I
Yes.
I have just one question for Robert, and maybe this is just related to revenue projections for the business licenses.
Yes.
Have we heard any follow-up from that contractor yet who is going to kind of survey out-of-state licenses and money that could be recouped from that? Do we have any idea yet?
We have not, there's a lot of information that we've been providing back and forth, but we have, as far as any type of collections or anything, we have not. And just to be perfectly honest, we haven't been as diligent getting them the information they need as quickly as they need it, because we've been tied up with the bond and some other things. But yes, they are doing their job. We are providing them with information. Bo's been working with them on a regular basis.
That's great. So anything, that would just still be on
Yeah,
top of
yeah, it'd be
anything
above that,
projected,
yeah.
so fantastic.
Yeah, good
Which one was
point.
that, you said?
Revenue discovery for business license out of state.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep,
Is that the showing for the Avenue thing?
Avenue.
yes.
Robert, just looking at the taxes like that, what we're requesting is almost 7+ over on what our current actual was. Is there a reason for why we would be so confident in our ability to collect that much more taxes than the current actual?
Which one is that, sir?
Like if I'm looking at the general fund revenues taxes line
Uh-huh.
at the bottom total.
The total?
Is, current actual is 39.9, and then our requested budget is 47.9.
Because that's not
We
that's
still
not
don't
the,
have 2 months of this.
yeah, we still.
Yeah,
That's
we-
why I'm just
right.
clarification. Okay.
Yes, it would be the fact that actual is, this budget actual is through July 31st, so that still leaves August and September's revenues to be added to the actual.
Excellent, thank you.
We're gonna have to tell them all the rest of the
Up there,
budgets.
June, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to reprint that and get it to them, Thursday, cause all of it's supposed to be for 9 months, which is June. But on tab 2, starting grants fund, everything is June,
Yeah.
but general fund got posted for July, so we'll just have to give them a new June
Yeah.
on Thursday.
The road and bridge tax, that,
June.
is this a new note this year?
No, it was a permanent
That's
note
been on
that I
there
put in there.
before.
It
That's
used to
been
be commingled in the general fund, but
And it's-
ever since I've been here for 10 years, we've had it in 7 cent. But we
That's
just
right.
kept it in permanent, so anybody that succeeds me or Robert won't put it back in the general fund, because it's supposed to be in its own segregated fund. That was something I found when I got
It-
hired here in 2010.
It's restricted money for,
So I just made it as a permanent note, so we would always go in its own fund back in general. We used to do it so y'all would know for comparison why we were missing some revenue in the past, but it's been long enough now that there's not any there in the prior years, but just because we weren't doing it correctly at first, I left it as a permanent note, so they would know to always put it in the 7 cent gas tax fund. Cause they're pretty particular about their
Okay.
gas tax money not being commingled.
All right, okay. Any other questions?
Fund 5.
All right. Are you on page 2 now? Are you still
yes,
in
sir,
the blue?
that was
Okay.
page 1 of the general fund. Okay, on page 2, it continues with licenses and permits. Then you have your intergovernmental transfers, which we have the SRO reimbursement, which is from the Board of Education to our general fund for the police officers that are paid through the Board of Education, reimbursed through the Board of Education.
We have one at each school now? Is that right?
I believe so.
I think we actually have one.
There's more.
Oh, there's more, okay.
There's one
I
at each
printed that, but I
elementary
didn't get it.
school, and I think 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. I think that's correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then our next section are just charges that, for services that the city provides. Anything from recreational fees, park activity fees, library collections, library rental fees. And really those, some of these fees are where, you can see we've had some lost revenue, during the COVID. But we're, anticipating that a lot of those will rebound somewhat over the prior year.
Can I ask you a
And-
question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Robert, can you speak to utility fees as far as, I have been told by someone in my ward that other cities collect fees that we do not. I asked Mr. Kendrick that, and he said that was not the case, and I just wanted to have that discussion and make sure there's nothing that, like, if a utility comes in and cuts or whatever, that they're paying other cities' fees that they're not paying us. Is that the case or not?
I am I can't tell you what other cities are collecting. I mean, I just know that the fees that we're collecting from, you know, Allegasco and the utility, the
Waterworks and
waterworks and
The
the
Spire.
cable companies, those are the ones that we have been collecting. We have we're getting a fee now for the small cell tower cell tower, I don't know what the exact term of it is. And we're also getting rental fees from some of the sites where cell towers are located, such as Dawson Memorial Baptist Church and places like that. Those are the smaller amounts, but I honestly couldn't compare what other fees that other cities are
But
collecting.
ours are right here on page,
You
ours
want
are
that?
under license instead of that, that's why she makes a zero, I think, franchise fee, it's right here. That's Allegasco and all them are in this
Right.
one. I don't know, utility.
Oh, the utility,
Yeah,
okay,
some-
are you referring to the fact that it's zeroed out under charges, under utility franchise fees? We got zero, but we moved it to,
Well, ours-
utility license.
Yeah, it's on page one, under business, under utility licenses, that's where the Birmingham
yeah,
Water
that
Works
got
and all.
moved to that line item.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
there,
it's been that way for the last, I don't know, that one hadn't been used, that's one of those that got picked up because of the 5-year with Encode. You see, it hadn't had any activity since 5 years ago, because we collapsed it all into that utility license on the first page before that.
right. And Ms. Andrews, to answer that, there are some fees that other cities charge, like trash pickup, as we've, as we've learned, a monthly charge for trash pickup, and we provide backdoor, you know, so there are some that we don't charge. But I don't know, in terms of the utilities, I mean, we're consistent with every other municipality as to what we collect on that, as I understand it.
I think it was just because it was it had been reclassed.
Yeah, it just was
And they don't buy a business license, and I think that's why we several years ago moved it under license, because they have like the fee in lieu of a license. So, we moved it from that category taxes on that page you were looking at to the page before that.
And that is a sore subject, really, now that you made me think about it.
Thanks a lot.
No, but I mean, we really have struggled with when curb cuts occur. You know, they're supposed to put the street back in and the same or better condition than they left it. And that has just been a struggle, and we have really tried to coordinate, because I've seen times where we pave a road and then immediately we get a curb cut, you know, 2 weeks later or something. So those are the really
Y'all did pass a
frustrating
new
ones.
ordinance or resolution, and we do have on page 2 a street cut repair utility that Berkeley manages. We make them pay,
They pay and
we
post
pay-
a
we-
bond.
Yeah, we post a bond until and if it's not put back.
And if it's not, then we,
can- Yeah, I think that's helped some, I know Berkeley's here, he can tell you for sure, but, y'all did pass the thing because of that, and we do now, have somebody manage that for us, and we hold a bond.
Berkeley, is that getting better in terms of curb
The
cuts
street
that are
cuts, you know,
made?
that we
Is
manage
there-
that?
That's what, you know, the mayor and I were just talking, you know, the system now, Chris is able, he can log in, if somebody's pretty much doing a cut on the water line, or fixing a water line, if they don't come through us, they gotta go through Waterworks board tab. So Chris now can go online with Waterworks and pull that address and see, so that's gotten a lot better than it used to.
So the builder who does a curb cut,
I think it's better, 'cause I got.
we charge them because we put it back because it's on our property.
They put it back, they don't, we
I
will,
ran it
we'll
today
charge
for
them.
June to put it on.
But we're still seeing.
Well, but it's not the builder,
Yeah.
the building part that's, or the, because construction is the problem, is when somebody has an issue, you know, plumber has to come in the middle of the night, cut the road up.
And I think we need to run it
That
tonight.
we weren't able to catch it before, well, now with the system with Chris having access to actual.
We can find it,
The
yeah.
Waterworks board system, he can go and find it, and if not,
That's what I'm saying before Thursday.
if it's not them, we know it's the homeowner that's done it, so now it's up to them
Making the
to
notes of the ones we gotta
get their contractor paid for it,
Notes of the ones we gotta read.
so it's, like Berkeley said, it's gotten a lot better than the way it used to be, where we were, you know, they came in like Batman in the middle of the night, did something to the left.
But see, most of them now, if you cut in the road, they've got, call 811 and do line location. You know, some
Right.
do, you know, I ain't gonna lie, not all of them will, but most of them do. Most of them have kind of over the last couple of years, they know we can find out who they are, so they've come and get
great. Any other questions? Okay, are we on page 3?
Yes, sir.
And I'll have a question on this, just in terms of the municipal fines, kind of if we're projecting to finish at around 790 while we're coming back to 606, is that a comfortable number in terms of municipal fines?
Well, actually, the current year is, it was budgeted at 789, and we're not gonna make budget on that item
Oh,
this
we're
year.
not, so what are we tracking?
Well,
the
let me
last-
look and see what what's
So
the,
we're at 457 through the end of July.
see what our actual is.
I thought we were gonna make budget on that.
No, we do not anticipate making budget on that this year.
I don't think they've been able to consistently have court enough. 'cause of-
Yeah, they haven't been holding court on a lot of that.
Okay,
Because
so that's,
of-
that's the lowest number we've had in a long time, so.
We fussed at John Morgan, but I think it might be out of his control.
Okay, that might be a takeaway, but
Okay.
that's,
Yeah, we don't anticipate making that budget number this year with court.
all right.
But, of course, the next item is just a few, the transfer in from grants fund for, I don't know.
That's the safer grant.
Yeah, that's a safer grant for our firefighters. And then we calculate the interest income for the various money that's invested and held in the checking accounts. Rosewood Hall rental income, lease income, that's for the rental income from off of the 3rd floor at City Hall. And then we are projecting using fund balance of $345,000 to budget to balance the budget this year in the general fund.
And Dr. Jones, I was just gonna say that, the wannabe accounting professor in me, keep it really high level overview, but can be confusing, since we have some new people. That is a revenue source, because that means that we have savings from the past when we finish with the surplus, and we put it in there to balance the budget, but you're really not gonna ever bring in actual revenue. Like you see that our current budget, we've got $2 million of fund balance, but we haven't used any. You don't bring in any revenue on fund balance, you would finish at a loss if you used it, but it can be confusing because it looks like revenue coming in, if that makes sense, but it's just to show you how much the budget was out of balance, if that makes sense.
Got it.
So we were actually having 345,000 more of expenses than we had in revenue. So you'll never see a revenue source in there.
Okay.
On my day, I'll hopefully try to explain to governmental accounting students why that is. I'm gonna have to come up with a better explanation, I guess, than what I just gave you.
But, I mean, the way that the mayor has instructed some of the personnel hires and the way that some of the expenses of the general fund have been pushed out 3 months, 6 months, that is a very good number of just using use less than 1% of carryover fund balance to fund a $56 million budget, so 57 million, I believe.
Yeah.
But that's a very low number.
All right. And then the other funds that are out there for revenue, I mean, we rarely even go into those, like, 4% gas tax.
Well, on our in Fund 4, which are our 7-cent gas tax fund, those are restricted revenue that comes off basically cents per gallon on gas tax, and
Right.
that is restricted money that can be used for any type of road or curb construction, equipment, utility, whatever. And then the next section is our 4 and 5 cent gas tax, and also you have your the newly rebuild Alabama gas tax. There's 4 funding sources for the Fund 5, and that is restricted money for asphalt only. That is for paving projects only.
Got it.
You want to just kind of flip through these and explain them briefly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
All right, Fund 6 is our Board of Education, and that is a transfer fund. That is not a revenue fund, that's transfer from the city to the Board of Education.
And that's under tab 7.
Yes, I'm sorry, tab 7. Under tab 8 is our debt service fund. Debt service is funded by property tax and portion of our sales tax. And this is where we fund our bonds out of. We have certain capital leases that are paid for out of the debt service fund. And we also pay certain items to Jefferson County, the Transit Authority.
They pay their portion based on the millage of the property tax
Yeah.
they take in, yeah.
Yeah, we've got Transit Authority, we got Health Department mapping, the Jefferson County that gets deducted from this revenue. 12 is capital projects. That's each department's capital projects is listed here, and this is a funding source which is strictly from sales tax. And as Melody said earlier, this is gonna look different than prior years because due to the ARPA money and then the bond refunding, we have money in Fund 26 that we're using some of the larger capital, and we'll have a list of those when we get to them, the capital projects that are being funded through ARPA and through the bond refunding. 13 behind tab 10, that's an escrow, environmental escrow fund. That's money that the city has for environmental testing on specific pieces of property. The Yuppie Puppies, the last one I believe we have on file right now. We just refunded some of the escrow money to the Jiffy Lube.
So it was like $100,000, and we've just been holding it for several years and paying the testing as we have to do it, and it's down to 80-something thousand.
Fund 14 behind tab 11 is our insurance fund. This is a transfer from general fund to Fund 14 to pay for our general liability and property insurance for the city. It's done this way just for an easier accounting, just from an eyesight, just to be able to look at. But the funding comes out of a transfer from general fund, so it does not have its own revenue source. Fund behind tab 12, Fund 15, that's our E911 or Emergency Communication Fund, and this is funded by telephone surcharge, which comes through us from the state of Alabama. We get approximately, this money is basically, we know what we're getting in this fund next year, and we've budgeted $619,000. That's based on our current income source.
Is
I
that,
think-
because we have the 911, are they kind of paying us for rent of sorts?
Well, they partially fund because the city pays an additional money to this, but it is funding off of a telephone surcharge to have our dispatch, the emergency communication. Now, that actually costs us, it actually costs the city about $1 million to run E911. We pay some of our dispatchers with some of the court money and also out of the police department money. But we get reimbursed from the state about $620,000 on that.
So we actually lose money in a sense?
Well, we're running the E911.
It runs in
I know we
the
are.
red.
Yeah, yes.
Can't we charge other cities to pay us for what we're doing for them?
We
We only
don't
dispatch for
outsource to any other city. We just do Homewoods.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought
Yeah,
our
we just do ours, but
911 was
it costs
doing
money
other
to
cities
run
too.
it.
I thought we
Yeah.
merged some.
Messavia uses Shelby County to dispatch for them, but
Okay.
yeah.
I just was wrong.
But see, their E911 money is then redirected to Shelby County, they don't
Okay.
get to take it.
Never mind.
Possession of it.
I got it.
Yep.
Let's see, tab 13, which is Fund 21, which is the Corrections Jail Fund. This is funded from court costs. They get a portion of court costs for the jail operations. And then in the next tab, Fund 22, is a portion of the court cost that goes to court, the actual operation of the court that John Morgan oversees. Again, the municipal court special is again, from the court operations, small revenue source comes into the municipal court special. Most of this is dictated by the state of how a lot of this money can be used as far as the judicial admin or the municipal court special. Behind tab 16 is Inspection Technology Fund. This is generated off of our building permits. A small portion of our, it's like $1.25 for each building permit, goes into the Inspection Technology Fund, and it's used for equipment and training for the building inspectors upstairs. '26 is our construction fund, which that's where we also have the balance of the bond refunding money in Fund 26. Anything that, is it correct for me to say that funding in 26 has generally always been bond money or bond refunding money? Is that correct and accurate at this point? I don't know of any other money in the past that has ever gone in 26 that was not bond or bond refunding money. And the cities use this to do some major construction projects.
It goes all the way back from before I was here when y'all borrowed for City Hall. Fund 26 used to have that City Hall construction. If you go back, way back, it was fun. So Fund 26 gets brought back out and dusted off again if we have bond money we need to spend. So we keep it segregated from the general fund.
Chairman Jones, Robert, can I ask one question? So just to clarify too, on that bond refinancing money, the stipulations on that, isn't there a time frame where we're gonna to spend all of that within?
We're budgeting to spend it all this next year if y'all
Okay.
approve the budget as is.
Okay.
It's
That-
6.4
that-
million. and
3 years.
We're at 6.5 right now.
Yeah.
But
The
it's
six-
all budgeted in this year.
Yeah, the
Great,
6.41 million, you have a 3-year time frame on, and then the previous refunded money that we have, there is no time frame.
Because it was tax, because it was.
And I don't know if you recall on the refinancing, that the night that we passed it at council, we were only looking at 6.
Mhm.
And from that point to the next day, it went back up to
I think
6.
they did some aggressive stuff
Six
too,
point
the day
four,
of the sale too.
6.5, so
They were working for us.
what they presented in committee was almost identical to what we actually got, so.
We thought we'd
if you
taken like
recall.
a half, we thought we'd taken several $100,000 loss because of the market swing, but then they
Yeah.
were able to get it back. of the sale.
So
But
that-
I should qualify
very-
that, Counselor Sims, because we're budgeting to spend it, we're actually budgeting for the entire Diamond interchange, so that money doesn't get spent, but we're paying it in 2 payments. So in effect, but I think we have 3 years to have the money designated, but we are gonna take, the whole 2.8 is in that 6.5, where we're gonna pay it in 1 year and 1 year, but we're basically showing you that we're using all of it with those identified projects. If that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, and then there's just a few more judicial admin fund behind tab 18, right?
Yeah, behind tab 18, judicial admin, that is, again, a funding source comes from court. It's a self-funded from the court operations, that John Morgan handles that. And, that's the last revenue fund that we have.
And Counselor Jones, if you, this little, I just was teasing about this legal sheet that we passed out earlier. We didn't have it ready, today, the budget book, but if y'all just put it in the front too, if you get it out. If you look at the top, all the revenue that Robert just discussed, the way it's laid out, all the revenue by category, taxes, licenses, for all the funds are spread out there.
Yep.
And if you look, the mathematician in me says, well, revenue sometimes, like on the general fund, revenue's 57.5, but the total expenditures are 57.9. If you look at that line item underneath it, you can see which funds are having to use fund balance. Basically deficit, they're gonna be spending more than they're currently bringing in, and they're using money from the past, because that's another thing we have to look at in our fiscal policy to make sure we have the fund balance, whatever, which we've done. So I'm just letting you see, that's why you got that line
Yeah,
underneath
this
that.
is really a great tool.
It's a good
to be able to-
snapshot.
yeah,
It's a
to be able to
high-level
see
overview, if you,
Yeah,
so to
exactly,
speak.
that's what I like. So.
We did that just for you, Dr. Jones.
So I guess for tonight, we really would just need a motion to approve the revenue numbers as distributed, unless there are some changes that anyone, that's why I held off having this meeting for about 11, 12 days, since you got the budget, so everyone would have time to look through that. But everything that I looked at, I really did not see any modifications that I would recommend on revenue.
I'm gonna bring one in.
So that would be a motion to approve revenue numbers as distributed.
I'll make a motion to approve the revenue numbers that have been distributed to us.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Harden, second by Mr. Gwaltney. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, by the same sign. Okay. So we're gonna have more, there'll be a lot more motions as we get
Dr.
into.
Almond isn't present, correct, on that motion 4-0? Dr. Almond's in the house, because he was on Zoom earlier, right?
I was on Zoom the whole time.
Yeah, he was on Zoom.
But he's
When-
you've been in here, Doug, for, that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, he was on Zoom
I
for
just
about
put
20
you
minutes,
were
and then he was
actually
here.
present now.
Yes.
It's
for 40,
4-0,
yeah.
okay, I was making sure I was right,
Yeah.
4-0, okay.
So everybody's here except Ms. Smith. Okay,
Right.
so so what we'll start on Thursday will be behind tab 2. And we will start on page 4, is that right? Let's see.
Yes, sir, page 4, which is
Page 4 is where we're gonna
0110, city clerk.
start, and we're gonna, if we can get through general fund, that'll be great in terms of expenditures. So we've already gone over revenue, we'll just be going over expenditures, and there'll obviously be more motions as we go through here. If you think of questions as you look through this, jot them down, and we'll make sure that we get everybody's questions answered. But that's all that I had for tonight. Are there any other questions or comments before we adjourn? Or we don't adjourn, we continue. We'll continue the meeting. Any other? Okay, then we're all for tonight, and we'll pick up on Thursday night. Thank you for your attention.